Hey, my handsome ladies and gentlemen, this is Shmeaty. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. They just buffed Tinkaton something massive with this recent update, giving it Gigaton Hammer, which is actually a clone of the move Precipice Blades at 60 energy and 130 damage. That is an exceedingly efficient charge move. Let's see if it's worth using in the Ultra League. Kicking things off with game number 1, we are going to lead Tinkaton into a Primeape. Primeape going to go for the immediate Rage Fist. I am not going to put up a shield on what I know is only going to be a Rage Fist, so I am going to build up to the Gigaton Hammer, and just before they're able to get their next Rage Fist, I'm going to go for a Bulldoze bait. Bulldoze onto the Primeape, a very large set of stones on this Primeape, deciding to call the bait there, but realistically this isn't even that bad because I call a bait right back, and now I'm going for yet another Bulldoze. This will be nearly enough to KO the Primeape here. They are going to put up this shield as their defense did get debuffed. Now, I'm more than happy to just let this go, bring in the Charizard, and take the 2-to-1 shield advantage, with the Primeape not even being able to make a move there. They're going to bring in their Galarian Moltres in the back. Galarian Moltres going to have a hard time dealing with the fact that Charizard is going to be able to pace circles around them to the first Blast Burn, thanks to that energy lead we got from farming down the Primeape. They are going to no-shield it, big damage onto the Galarian Moltres. They're going to go for a fly, but at this point I can shield the Charizard and fully farm down before they're able to make the second fly. We've taken quite a bit of damage. They're going to bring in their Tinkaton. Their only win con is calling a bait, but I have no reason to bait as I am at the back-to-back Blast Burns. Blast Burn number 1 grabs the shield. Blast Burn number 2 is going to nearly KO the Tinkaton by itself. We're going to bring in the Gyarados, and my opponent top lefts. GG's. We're getting into the next one where it is going to be Tinkaton leading into Mandabuzz. I cannot believe somebody is running Mandabuzz in this economy. This is post Tinkaton. I don't know why in a post Tinkaton society we are even thinking about running Mandabuzz, but my opponent going to build up to a Shadow Ball and send the Shadow Ball. I'm going to build up past the Gigaton Hammer. I see they attempt to switch. I'm going for a Bulldoze onto the incoming Drapion. This is super effective damage. It won't do more than a Gigaton Hammer, but I am going to be able to get the debuff, and now I'm going for the Gigaton Hammer. Huge damage onto the non-Shadow Drapion. That is supposed to be a bulky Pokemon, but it certainly does not look like it today. We're going to let go of whatever they throw here. They go for an Aqua Tail that does pitiful damage. I am going to overfarm, realizing that that Bulldoze would have been on CMP. Aqua Tail going to do some more pitiful damage, but we're going to be able to get the farm down with the Tinkaton. Tinkaton not playing any games with the opponent, and we're sending another Gigaton Hammer onto the incoming Shadow Nidoqueen. More than 50% of its health just deleted. In comes the Charizard. Charizard will go for an Air Cutter here, as Air Cutter will do basically the remainder of the Nidoqueen's health, or I can potentiate grabbing a shield and boosting. So I am going to go for the Air Cutter. They're going to go for what can very likely be a Stone Edge, so I put up the shield. It is the Stone Edge. Back in comes the Mandabuzz. Mandabuzz, honestly, I don't like the fact that it was able to make another move here, but they go for the Aerial Ace bait. This just isn't going to save them. I'm going to build up to nearly back-to-back Blast Burns, and I am sending Blast Burn number 1. I sure hope my opponent has full intention on quitting this game, because we catch their move onto the Tinkaton. Absolutely unnecessary. We still had a shield, by the way, and we still have a full health Gyarados for their Nidoqueen in the back. I'm going to build up right before they're able to make their next Aerial Ace, go for this Air Cutter. Getting the KO onto the Mandabuzz. In comes the Nidoqueen, but Nidoqueen is going to attempt to make a move, but we are going to go for the Blast Burn on what would have been CMP to their Poison Fang, just giving them a little bit of false hope there. GG's. Getting into the next game, I guess we're taking a look at what Sabrina Carpenter song we have on, and we are going to see, yes, there was a lot of just F you Tinkaton teams, just middle finger to the Tinkaton. And that was basically the concept of a lot of teams the day of Tinkaton's release, or rather the day of Gigaton Hammer Tinkaton's release. We are going to go for a Blast Burn onto the incoming Shadow Giratina. Shadow Giratina tearing away at my health with these Shadow Claws, but I am going to be very capable of just putting up the shield, going for a second Blast Burn, and if they want to give me 2 shields with their Giratina, so be it. The Shadow Giratina forced to put up the shield to the Blast Burn. I mean, you're not really forced to. You probably could have lived that very, very well, but you know what? I'll take it. They go for the Shadow Sneak. I'm going to allow that to KO, bringing back in the Tinkaton. They bring in the Crocodile. I'm looking to catch a potential Brick Break on to my Gyarados. Unfortunately, they go for the extra, go for the Crunch onto the Gyarados. That does huge damage, and now with no shields remaining on the Crocodile, I make sure to build up just before they're able to make the next move. This could either be a Brick Break or a Crunch, but I have no intentions on allowing the Crocodile to make a move there. They're going to bring back in the Giratina, but the Giratina is shieldless, so that means they are going to get KO'd by this Crunch. Shadow Crunch onto the Giratina, easily enough to pick up the knockout. And they've got a Scorch in the back for some reason. This player very much so does not like Tinkaton. I'm going to go for the Aqua Tail. Then I'm going to bring in my Tinkaton, go for the Bulldoze. This will not be enough to KO the Scorch, as this is only neutral damage, and this is the Ultra League, where if your move hits like a small child, then unfortunately you are going to see the results of your move hitting like a small child. They go for the Lunge, I guess a bad manners Lunge at the end of the game, as it is double resisted as opposed to super effective with their fire type moves. But we are going to get into the next game where it's Tinkaton leading into Greedent. A Mudshot Greedent is generally, maybe you would think it would be a little bit advantaged in this matchup, but even with the first Crunch debuff, I'm going to go for this Gigaton Hammer, and Gigaton Hammer onto the Greedent. How much do you guys think this is going to do? Down goes 60% of the Greedent. Once again, this Pokemon is an absolute menace. I love this move. Unfortunately, Steel is a pretty mediocre offensive typing. Otherwise, I think it would be a lot better, but I think that's our only saving grace from Tinkaton running every meta that it's available in, is the fact that its big move is now pretty mediocre in terms of offensive coverage. We're going to go for an Aqua Tail bait onto the incoming Drifloon. Drifloon going to be able to reach an Icy Wind here, but I am going to no-shield the Icy Wind, and I am going to look to try to pivot out here, but I'm reaching for the ropes like a tag team match, but unfortunately not quite able to switch out just yet. I'm going to have to burn both of my Aqua Tails in order to do so, and unfortunately I'm going to get KO'd by the Fairy Wind that sneaks through, so a little bit unfortunate of a scenario there, but I am just going to go for the Bulldoze onto the incoming Jeezing. And they realistically should not have to put up the shield there, as that would not be enough to KO, but maybe they thought I was at yet another Gigaton Hammer. They are going to fire off a move. Sludge just not going to cut it here, and I'm going to stay in, because if they didn't go for the overheat, they simply would not be able to pick up the knockout, and they're not going to Fairy Wind me down, so they're forced to go for the Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing is going to get the KO onto the Tinkaton, but they have no shields, and I have a 2-0 shield advantage Charizard. I am going to shield up a Sludge, and I am going to look to fully farm down this Jeezing. I feel like a Sludge landing would be a lot less impactful than the Drifloon being able to make a move here, so I am just going to commit to the Blast Burn, going for the farm down on the Jeezing. Drifloon comes back in, met with the Blast Burn. They could make a potential move there, but realistically, it's not going to matter. We've got the shield. GG's. Getting into the next one where we have a terrible lead, leading Tinkaton into Swampert. I have to switch in my only answer to Swampert, which is going to be my Shadow Gyarados, and unfortunately Swampert's going to bank a billion energy and then leave. Unfortunate, so I am going to go for Aqua Tail onto the incoming Tinkaton, but Tinkaton is not much of a response to a Shadow Gyarados up energy, because despite the fact that they have Gigaton Hammer and they are going to land it, and it still does a billion damage, I'm outside of range where they can comfortably go for a Fairy Wind farm down. I'm going to be able to land a few more moves here, namely multiple Aqua Tails. Aqua Tail number 2, now Aqua Tail number 3, really chipping away at the health of this Tinkaton. And if they want to get the KO here, they are going to have to go for a Gigaton Hammer, but they go for the Bulldoze. They get the debuff, and that allows them to farm me down. All that energy lost, and the only thing that we had to defend ourselves versus 100 energy on a Swampert, we go for the simultaneous switch, or rather we both wait out our switch timer and both bring in our third unrevealed Pokemon. Is going to be Charizard into Corviknight. Corviknight going to be blasted by the Blast Bird. In comes the Swampert, doesn't throw any energy, so now we are just going to soak all this energy with the Tinkaton and look to go straight for Bulldozes. This is a little bit of a degenerate strategy, but all I need is one Bulldoze debuff and 2 shields on my Charizard, and I can look to probably try to wing attack farm down the Swampert. We're going to go for it. Bulldoze is going to grab the shield from the Swampert, not trying to take a, I was going to call it a Tinkaton Hammer, which I have unfortunately confused the name as before, but we are going to go for the Air Cutter onto the Swampert. I need a boost here, so unfortunately no debuff from the Bulldoze earlier on, and they decide to no-shield the air cutter, which makes my job a lot easier, but realistically, this is such an uphill battle for the Swampert. Even if it may not look like it, they can fire off another move here. It won't matter. Down goes the Swampert to the wing attack. Fast move pressure. GG's. We're getting into the next one where it is going to be Tinkaton into a Shadow Feraligatr. Lead's not getting much easier for me, but I am going to go for the Gigaton Hammer on 7. They're going to CMP time me with the Hydro Cannon. That's a good play from the opposing trainer, but realistically, this Gigaton Hammer will still do quite a bit of damage on to the Feraligatr, just like I am going to incur quite a bit of damage from Duo. If I don't do my Duo lingo, they are going to fire off a move here. I decide to catch it onto my Gyarados, as this is the only place where I can comfortably survive a move from the Feraligatr. Realistically, they are going to bring in Guzzlord going for the brutal swing here, and I am going to go for a crunch, looking for a debuff. They are likely to just let this go, realizing there's a Tinkaton in back for this Guzzlord. They are going to elect to no shield and stop tapping for just a little bit. This trainer actually played this very, very well, allowing me to get as minimal farm with the Tinkaton as possible so that it doesn't run away with the game, because I could have realistically came in and farmed it down the Guzzlord from full if I really wanted to. They are going to go for a departing brutal swing, and now they are going to bring in their third and final Pokemon revealed to be Drapion. I'm going for a Gigaton Hammer. Gigaton Hammer onto the Drapion does get shielded, and now I am going to go for yet another Gigaton Hammer. I kind of have to shield this, as an Aqua Tail is definitely going to be enough to KO me. I'm at like 3% health, so going for the Gigaton Hammer, hoping that they decide to no shield it. But now I have Charizard in the 1-0 sealed scenario where you want your Charizard to be, and they're going to be able to fire off a move here. Now, I know that their Feraligatr is dry, so I am going to elect to wait for it to come back in. Then I'm going to send the Air Cutter right when they're able to make their next Hydro Cannon. This will KO the Feraligatr. We get the boost. Back in comes the Drapion. It's a CMP tie to their Aqua Tail with a boosted Blast Burn. Blast Burn one-shots the Drapion. GG's to that trainer. We're getting into the next one where it is going to be Tinkaton leading into Florges. Florges probably going to want to get out of here immediately. They are going to put us a little bit on the back rope by sending in an Empoleon, but not really. We can just go for a Bulldoze. Bulldoze, if unshielded, will do a little bit of chip damage and get the debuff, so now we can bring in the Gyarados. The play was always just going to be to bring in the Gyarados anyway, but now that we got the debuff, we can go for straight Aqua Tails onto this Empoleon. Aqua Tail number 1 onto the Empoleon may very well pressure a shield from them if they want to keep this Empoleon alive, and they probably do because they have a Florges and alignment would be pretty nice for them. They're going to go for the Drill Peck. We're able to make the last second Aqua Tail on damage registration error, and this Aqua Tail will nearly KO the Empoleon, so they're going to be forced to put up the shield. I think it actually would have just KO'd from there with them being one stage lowered in their defense. We're bringing in the Charizard, taking advantage of that lower defense once again, and now I am going to just look to commit to a full farm down of this Empoleon. They are going to be able to get to 2 Hydro Cannons here, but look at how low they are. What do you send in that can take all of this Charizard energy? Charizard able to get the farm down. The Florges has no energy residual, and apparently the third one does not want to see a fully loaded Zard. GG's. Getting into the next one where it is going to be the Twink Mirror. We've got Tinkaton on Tinkaton action. They're going to go for the immediate Bulldoze. In the Ultra League, you should always need 2 Bulldozes and a Gigaton Hammer to get the knockout. I believe the debuff makes it a little easier for the Gigaton Hammer to KO, but unfortunately, even with the debuff, we will not get KO'd. So I am going to look to probably shield up this next move. No, we are going to just let it go. They go for the second Bulldoze, maximum greed from my opponent, and now I'm going for the Gigaton Hammer. Gigaton Hammer onto the opposing Tinkaton, going to be let go, and it's not going to be enough to KO. They are going to fire off what can only be a Bulldoze. We are going to catch that onto our Gyarados. This will do very meaningless damage onto the Gyarados, and now they are going to bring in their Guzzlord. Guzzlord does pace very, very quickly. This could be a potential Crunch or Dragon Claw, but I am going to let it go, and it is going to be the Crunch. That's a little bit unfortunate, but I am going to just fire off this Aqua Tail, as Aqua Tail onto the Guzzlord will do quite a bit of meaningful chip damage. We're just getting them ever so slightly lower so that Tinkaton can come back in and get a very easy farm down from them. I am going to hard pivot into the Tinkaton. The Guzzlord still locked into this matchup. They are going to be able to fire off a last-second Sludge Bomb, but will be able to survive it with ease as it is still resisted. They're bringing in Typhlosion. Typhlosion is going to be able to get this farm down with relative ease. They go for a shield of the Gigaton Hammer. Realistically, you could debate that I could have went for the Bulldoze there, but I decided to go for the Gigaton Hammer just to lock in some damage onto this Typhlosion. They are going to be at 80 energy right now, or rather, actually, they're at a full 100 energy. I'm going for the Air Cutter. They have to throw right now. I bring in the Gyarados, catch their move, and now we still have 2 shields on our Charizard. This is absolutely massive. Despite the fact that we did switch out of our boost, I can force the last shield from the Typhlosion here, and this is going to be a problem for this Typhlosion. They are just going to elect to let that move go, maybe looking to put this game in the hands of Tinkaton, and Tinkaton will not even be able to make the Gigaton Hammer. GG's. We're getting into the next one where it is going to be Tinkaton leading into Bellibolt. Bellibolt is a pretty awkward Pokemon for this particular team to see, especially when they are on Thundershock. We can go for straight Bulldozes here, and if we get the debuff, it offsets them going for any Parabolic Charge shenanigans, but they built up to a Zap Cannon here. Now, I'm going to call that this Bellibolt is a degenerate, but they go for the Zap Cannon. That is absolutely unfortunate for us. They are going to bring in their Hippowdon. Hippowdon going to be able to fire off a Weather Ball Rock, but that's not going to be enough damage to KO the Gyarados. Gyarados going to be able to snack that one, going to be able to build up to their next move, go for the Aqua Tail. And Aqua Tail will do meaningful damage onto the Hippowdon. I don't think we're going to be able to get a full farm down here like I would like, so I may have to throw another Aqua Tail here before they're able to make another Weather Ball, and unfortunately I don't do it in time, so now I just have to act like this was the plan all along and put up the shield. They go for the second Weather Ball. I am double shielding the Gyarados to get the farm down of the Hippowdon, but my opponent still has 2 shields of their own. They're going to bring in that Bellibolt once again, but I can look to strip away shields from this Bellibolt with a crunch after a Aqua Tail, or rather a Aqua Tail followed by a crunch. I said it in the wrong order twice. Anyway, I'm not redoing that one. We're bringing in the Tinkaton, going for the snipe, and now this Bulldoze will put pressure on the Bellibolt's final shield. They decide to shield it up, and this is pretty bad for us, but maybe I can go for bringing in the Charizard and going for 5 wing attacks and an air cutter to win CMP over the Bellibolt. We'll see. Let's see. They do decide to bring in their third and final Pokemon. It is going to be a Shadow Lapras. That means that the Sparkling Aria guaranteed is going to KO from the Shadow Lapras. I go for the Blast Burn. It does quite a bit of damage, and I knew that they were at the move there, but I kind of had to think when they were going to throw their move. Unfortunately, it was there. I tried to get the Dragon Breath farm down, but they farmed down first. GG's. Getting into the next one where it is going to be Tinkaton leading into a Lickilicky. Now, this is a truly devastatingly bad matchup for Lickilicky now that we have access to Gigaton Hammer. This move is so stupid. How much do you think this is going to do onto the Lickilicky? Did you expect it to do 55%? Because I sure did not. That is a clean 2-shot onto the Lickilicky, and it's not even close. They're going to go for the Shadow Ball, and now I can just build up to the next Gigaton Hammer, eat the next Shadow Ball with absolutely no consequence, build up 4 more Fairy Winds, because now I can build up to just before they make their next Body Slam, which wouldn't even KO either. And now this Gigaton Hammer will KO the Lickilicky. Down goes the Lickilicky. In comes Skeletor. Skeletor's going to be met by the Charizard, or excuse me, by the Gyarados. Gyarados looking to fire off an Aqua Tail at the Skeletor. Skeletor does decide to no-shield it. That is quite the surprise to me. I'm going to no-shield as well. Maybe they go for some Torch Song shenanigans. They have Disarming Voice for some reason, and they are going to bring in a Cresselia in the back. But Cresselia is exactly what our third Pokemon, Charizard, was hoping to see, as with the usual moveset of Moonblast and Grass Knot, there's nothing they can do to even put a dent in the Charizard. Not for nothing, Charizard's still going to have a dent put in it because it's super frail, but upon seeing the Charizard, I would be reaching for the top left button, and so too does my opponent. GG's. We're getting into the next game where it is going to be yet another Tinkaton lead, final game of the video, and this lead is of course very common. I'm going to go for the immediate Bulldoze, as my opponent may send a Gigaton Hammer as they built up to 7. They go for a Bulldoze as well, knowing that 2 Bulldozes are going to be required to pick up the knockout on to the Tinkaton. They are not going to get debuffed, neither did we, so no debuffs here. Going for another 7 and throw, going for the bulldoze, and this will do, again, meaningful damage onto them. They went for the Gigaton hammer, but as you can see, there's still quite a bit of health left on my Tinkaton. They're not going to be able to farm down. Since they threw there, I can build up to my Gigaton hammer. I know they have the bulldoze now, so I just switch and catch it on to my Gyarados. If they get the debuff here, it'll be quite unfortunate, but we can still attempt to play out of it. They bring in their Galarian Moltres in the back. Galarian Moltres going to get hit with an Aqua Tail from the Shadow Gyarados, and with one shield down, I don't know if they want to go 2 shields down quite yet, but if they don't throw their energy soon, they are going to have to give me another shield. And even though they throw their energy, I'm more than comfortable with shielding up the Gyarados, because Gyarados is going to be able to put massive pressure onto them. We're at the back-to-back Aqua Tails here, and I believe this is a CMP tie. Do they put up the shield? They do not put up the shield. And now, what do they decide to bring in? If they bring in the Tinkaton, this still won't be a very good matchup for them. They do decide to bring in the Tinkaton. They have to full send in order to get the KO there. I decided to go for a CMP sack swap, but unfortunately I lose CMP and I didn't factor that into the equation, so I'm going to go down to the bulldoze there. In comes Charizard. Charizard looking to get to the Blast Burn. Everything they throw here is going to be resisted. They are going to bring in Skeledirge now. Skeledirge is going to be met with multiple Air Cutters from the Charizard. Air Cutter number 1 going to grab the shield. No boost for me, but I can now go for the Blast Burn, and Blast Burn will do huge damage onto the Skeledirge. Skeledirge nearly getting down into the red health. And now we can go for a CMP sack swap the appropriate way, going for the Aqua Tail, winning CMP over the Skeledirge with the move. They bring back in the Tinkaton, but Tinkaton is going to be absolutely helpless up against all this energy from these two big bicep boys. They're going for the Fairy Wind farm down. They can't even do that, as Gyarados able to make a last-second Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail picks up the knockout onto the Tinkaton. That'll be a good game. If you guys made it to this point in the video, thanks so much for watching. Now, it comes to the surprise of absolutely no one that when you give a Fairy and Steel-type Pokemon a truly busted move like Gigaton Hammer, it is going to be obviously very much improved at the very least. I think Tinkaton is, especially with this new moveset, is very good. I think it's particularly viable in the Ultra League and Great League limited metas for right now. I don't think the Open Great League is going to be the spot for it, even though I would absolutely love to make some people's Wigglytuffs disappear with a Gigaton Hammer Tinkaton, but I think the Open Great League is a little too infested by water types and opposing steel types in order for this particular moveset to see true viability. But with all that being said, thanks once again so much for watching. I've been Shmeaty. I hope to see you all again next time, and have a good rest of your day. See ya.